Yes.
Could I ask, I'm intrigued by this picture here of the groom.
Yeah.
It's possibly the most gloomiest wedding party I've ever seen. Is there an underlying...
It's not gloomy, it's somber.
Is there an underlying tension there?
No, there is no tension. Usually in the culture, in the wedding culture of you know, I would say the region where I'm from, not just the country, there is some kind of seriousness. It's not moroseness, it's just seriousness of the ceremony that is kind of valued. You know, you're not supposed to take it frivolously. You know, you're getting married. It's a serious thing. It's a life-changing affair. So you have to take it with, especially if you're a man, you have to take it, you know, with quite sort of seriousness. So it's not like, I've met the family, they're quite happy. It's just, you know, also there's a lot, because you become the center of attention. The entire village comes all around you, and everyone wants to give you something, to give you a kiss, to wish you well, and it just becomes very, you know, it's not often the, you know, something that they enjoy maybe. Yeah, so, yes.
I'm very intrigued by that funeral picture.
See, wedding and funeral right across from each other.
I want to know kind of how you did it, not technically, but I mean in terms of being there, what the mechanics of you being in
Good question.
2 or 3 meters away, or wherever you are, you know, because I think it's really very, you know, very intimate, very,
of course.
very sort of like, you know, just, you know.
So I was working, as I said, I was working with a translator, a Romanian translator, and once we met a photographer in the village, a wonderful, wonderful photographer. He was from Breb village of about 800 people, and he documented every single day of this village. He would write down what happened on that day. You know, some rascals have stolen Maria's pig, you know, June 15, 1984, you know. And then June 16, they found the pig, you know. So he was literally documenting everything that went on in pictures and in words. And in his archives, I saw these amazing pictures of funerals, and I said, "Oh my God, this is so incredibly beautiful." And they were Orthodox funerals, like very traditional. So I asked my translator. I said, "It's a very weird question, but do you know anyone who is dying?" And he said, and this was summer, he said to me in this very Romanian accent, "Do not worry, if you come back in fall, everybody dies in fall." I said, "Okay, so November, I come back." And sure enough, there are funerals almost every, you know, week. So I went to these funerals, and usually it's someone very, very old. And it's kind of accepted that the entire village shows up, you know, and I showed up with the translator and with some of the families, and they looked at me, and they were absolutely fine with me being there. We sat, normally you sit at long tables and you eat with the family, you drink palinka, that brandy that they brew, that they distill so you drink it, it's quite strong. So at the end of the day, everyone is kind of, halfway mourning, halfway joking, and it's kind of it is a very somber affair, of course, just as much as the wedding in Azerbaijan. But at the same time, it's cultural, and they take pride in the rituals, you know, so they're okay with you being there, and you explain to them, "I would like to photograph these amazing rituals," you know, in that one particular one where you see the man in the coffin, the priest comes and he sings out, and very beautifully sings out the name of every deceased relative of his family. And it just goes on for hours, they're singing, and they're singing prayers to all these people who are deceased, while the relatives of the deceased man are standing by the coffin and crying. And so it's a very beautiful, I mean, there's beauty in that as well that I find quite remarkable. And the same over there, the funeral next to it, there was just a moment, they're standing next to the coffin, and I was just kind of thrusted in the middle of it, and they didn't notice me at all. They were so consumed by their own grief and their own moment that they didn't see me, they didn't mind me being there. I mean, obviously, there is this unspoken agreement, you know, on their part that I'm there, that I'm able to work. As otherwise they would ask, and because every time in the beginning you'd go to the head of the family and you ask them, is it okay if I'm there? They say yes, and then you just disappear. So yeah. It doesn't work in every culture and in every place. There are many places around the world you won't even come near a funeral or a wedding. But there it was very open, I found.
Further questions?
Yeah.
These communities effectively are fading away because the next generation of children are going to town and not coming back. And this sort of
Yeah.
Is there any sort of regional government initiative to try and keep these communities in these areas? Because otherwise there's going to be massive areas of depopulation.
Yeah, there are, I'm afraid, massive areas of depopulation. I haven't really witnessed any sort of solid plan or government initiatives, because, you know, like let's say the Romanian farmers, for example, their land plots are too small to get EU subsidies and too large to get government subsidies. So they're right in the middle, and I've seen people farm literally till they die. I've seen such elderly people, you know, 95-year-old men with scythes, you know, cutting hay, because they have simply no choice. They don't have pensions, adequate pensions, so they have to live off their land. That's how they have to live. And a lot of the younger children moved away, and they come back every now and then in summer and they help out, but their future is not there. They've gone. So it is like you see some villages that have shrunken to, you know, incredibly.
Because there comes a point where the community is no longer viable.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the tendency. I mean, you probably know it in Eastern Europe in general. In rural areas, the population is shrinking rapidly. I mean, Bulgaria, I think, has one of the highest rates of depopulation. Yeah, so due to migration, due to aging, due to all these other factors, and yeah. So no, I haven't seen any initiatives. I mean, here too, this village. A lot of people have left, and some of the young people I've talked to, they're bored, they want to leave, they don't want to stay, they don't see their future over there, you know. And you can't really judge them. I mean, you can't, because like I enjoy my comforts, so I can understand why someone else would want to. So why would they want to stay? It's not convenient for them. Yet there's this beauty, and it's simply dying away. So what do we do about it? I mean, my kind of problem with the government is that this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, this village. So there should have been a lot better oversight in terms of architecture, for example. They should not have allowed tin roofs. Okay, if you want to fortify the roof, find a way to do it very well, so it's good for the people, but also so that it doesn't disrupt the look of the place. So just help them, because for generations they've been living and they've been making houses from river stones. You know, use the same methods, just improve the same methods. But you know, there has to be a very nuanced approach to places like this, and there hasn't been. They're just allowed, you know, anyone to do anything, cemented buildings, you know, as you can see like here, just slap on cement and tin roofs, and the whole look is not there. I mean, often people say, how can you be so... I've been criticized for defending, you know, this, because they say, why, you know, these people just simply want comforts, you know, but I'm not against that. But all I want is some kind of oversight of, because it's a culture, it's a unique cultural heritage. You know, if you have a castle right here and it's in the way of a highway, are you going to tear it down and build a highway? No. You're going to build a highway that goes around the castle and maybe make a nicer bridge, or, you know, this kind of oversight is necessary in places like this, but it hasn't really been the case.
Could you hear a little bit more about the Nigerian work, the oil pipeline?
The pipeline work, yes. So I decided to follow a pipeline which was literally like buried underground. You couldn't really see it, but the way I traced it was with stories of people who live above ground. When when the pipeline work started, and it was BP, a consortium of other oil companies, but managed mainly by BP, they've made a lot of promises to the people, and they've promised them jobs, they've promised them wealth, they've promised a lot of things. And what I found by driving along the entire, pipeline perimeter, which was 1,700 kilometers through 3 countries, is that many of these promises were not fulfilled. So the book is about the people who, not only the promises haven't been fulfilled, but some of the people had to suffer from human rights violations, not necessarily due to sort of the work of BP, but for instance, I'll give you an example. The oil companies had to work with local governments in order to secure land for the pipeline construction from farmers. But the local governments are corrupt. So the compensation that they owed to the farmers, they gave to their cousins and not to the farmers. And in the end, these farmers had been cheated out of their land. They lost the land became no longer arable, so they lost it for agriculture. They lost money, income, livelihoods, and the pipeline was built underneath their land. And they didn't know what to do. Like they literally had no voice in the matter, because projects like this, which are, important projects, infrastructure projects that are meant for the country's greater good, are always advertised as such. And there's a human cost to these projects, and many people kind of end up falling through the cracks. And my job was to give, give these people the chance to talk about what they've experienced, these violations that I met fishermen in Turkey, about 400, it was a group of 400 fishermen that went to court against the local Turkish oil contractor that built the pipeline, because where the pipeline ended and where the tankers came to pick up oil was their fishing waters, where they used to fish. And because of the tanker traffic, the water became warmer, and it killed all the fish eggs, and it killed all the fish, and they lost their livelihoods. So they dropped their fishing nets, and they started looking for other jobs, and then they ended up in Iraq working in Fallujah as toilet cleaners. So these are the kind of chain effects that can happen, and that no one talks about, because people talk about what's going to happen with this great project that we're building, that we're going to bring wealth to all these 3 countries, that the oil, and every day they were pumping 1 million barrels of oil. At the time that I was photographing this project, a barrel of oil was $100. So $100 million worth of oil was being pumped in that pipeline every single day. And above the ground, you saw farmers who live on $50 a month pensions. You saw farmers who lost their lands. You saw fishermen who lost their livelihoods. So this is the contrast, the stark reality, and the contrast between the wealth that's buried underneath, does not belong to the people, does not trickle down to the people, and the reality above ground. That's what I focused on.